I am Chris Savina with American Outdoor News. Welcome to another episode. I am here with Mitch Strobl from Pass It On. Mitch, thanks for taking the time to talk to us about your non-for-profit, Pass It On. I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, Chris, appreciate the opportunity to be here. It's always a good day when you get to talk hunting and mentorship and so on and so forth. Looking forward to it.
Well, we met at SHOT Show, and your non-for-profit's very interesting and a very integral part of the outdoors and what we do. What inspired you to start Pass It On?
Well, so my role with Pass It On Outdoor Mentors is I'm actually a board member. Pass It On Outdoor Mentors was founded 20 plus years ago and has largely been, an organization that's focused on just exposing kids to the outdoors, largely in Kansas. And over the past few years, it's really shown a lot of legs to just being able to grow into other states as well. So I was fortunate enough to be nominated to join the board. So our current CEO, Brittany French, really spearheads our day-to-day operations. But as board members, we sign up for a little bit more than just your typical board member role. We like to be very hands-on, active, boots on the ground, with the organization. And, ultimately our mission is to expose kids to outdoor experiences through, just access and mentorship. So,
Well, how do you um, how do you find people to mentor these young adults or young kids to get out and hunt and fish and uh, enjoy the outdoors? Is there a vetting process?
yeah, absolutely. So, all of the typical liabilities that you would quickly think of with, pairing um, just everyday good people who want to see hunting and fishing and outdoor traditions live on, right? You kind of have two buckets of people that we work with. We have those that can provide access and those that facilitate the actual experience.
Yeah.
So from a really, I kind of equate it to the stages of a hunter, right? We'll kind of talk about it through the lens of hunting. As you can tell, that's my passion. I like to fish too, but you don't see many fish on the wall. So better hunter than I am angler, I guess. But um, what we try to do is basically tap into people who've reached that phase of hunting where they'd like to pass it on, right? Hence the name. Typically, what you see in the stages of hunting is, once you start, you just want to hunt everything. You want to fill all of your tags, just go, go, go. Over the years, as you've probably experienced, and I have as well, you start to get more out of a hunt when you're not actually pulling the trigger, but you're bringing someone else into it, whether that's your child, a family member, or in the case of Pass It On Outdoor Mentors, we're very strategic in trying to address kind of that other bucket that we associate with, which are aspiring hunters, right? Those who want outdoor experiences but may not have that immediate network
Uh-huh.
that you and I have had or have created. They can't just call dad, uncle, grandpa, grandma to say, "Hey, take me hunting or fishing." That's where we come in, is facilitating the access and the instruction through our mentorship. Um,
Well,
yeah. Yes.
there's
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, no, please continue.
Well, just kind of on that vetting process, right? So, largely just a great group of people who are willing to give their time and energy and focus. But we're very intentional about a group as far as, background checks, training courses, what to do, what not to do, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. You know, any event that we teach, there's safety briefings. So very intentional with our vetting process to make sure that we're putting these kids in good hands. And then furthermore, for their own good, but also to make sure that after this experience, those kids can go do outdoor activities. Beyond that, we like to have parents or um, their other adult contacts, be present in the event as well, right? So
Sure.
we're there to teach them just as much as we are those kids, so that they can go off and continue participation on their own.
Yeah, that was actually my next question. How do you match up a kid with a mentor and parents involved, family involved, a brother or cousin or whatever?
Yeah, so the matching process largely comes down to what do we have to offer, where, when, and it's got the thumbs up going. And then, ultimately, from a marketing and outreach perspective, there is an element of we know that the mentees are looking for something specific. So in the case of, we might be hosting an upland bird hunt, we would already have a pretty well vetted list to know that, hey, we have some participants here that are just generally looking to do any style of hunting, right? And then we would proactively reach out to that group and say, hey, we have this opportunity. If you'd like to sign up for it, here's how you do that. And then part of that registration process is, making sure that we have a parent or guardian present as well.
Yeah, like I'm a deer hunter. I'm a big game hunter. I don't do very much bird or upland game, or I don't do much of that. So for me to mentor a young kid to take him pheasant hunting, I, I'm out of my element. I wouldn't be a good fit for that.
Yeah, and that's why we try to, really focus in on what our mentors are good at and what they have access to. We want to make sure that we have a safe experience, but also, a success is kind of success is not in the sense of harvesting something every time, right? But just a good experience overall. And part of that is we want to make sure that our mentors are proficient in whatever subject matter they're mentoring in, right? So I
Yeah,
love to bird hunt. I have two bird dogs, right? I can sign up to teach those, whereas someone without, dogs is going to be less inclined to do that. The other way that we kind of make up for that is we do tap into we have a pretty in-depth network of just guides and outfitters, who as part of their business, contribute to our organization, and perhaps, they donate hunts. So we might have a mentor that would go on that hunt with one of the kids and their parents, but the guide or outfitter would actually do the bulk of the teaching in that
yeah,
sense.
yeah. I guide deer hunts. I had three or four people last season uh, that I guided to get their first deer. And,
Nice.
yeah, it's a thrill, really is. I get it.
It is. There is a selfish element to it that I think that most people won't admit, because anybody, look, if you're donating your time, I mean, nobody does this for the pay, right? If anything, we have to pay to do it,
Yeah,
in the form of PTO or your own expenses getting out there. Um, when I talk to our mentors, a lot of what drives that is you do get something out of the satisfaction of a successful hunt and an introduction to hunting or fishing. So that is certainly an element that we, market to and really try to communicate to people who may not be mentors yet, right? They may not have connected those dots that, man, I have all this experience, all this access. There's something way more rewarding in taking some kids duck hunting than me shooting another limit of ducks.
sure, sure, absolutely. And it's kind of like you getting your first deer all over again.
Yeah, well, I'm curious. So, in your experience, with deer hunting, big game is there's a little more to it. It's a little more involved than just maybe going bird hunting. Which, not to diminish that at all, it's a great experience. But you're talking gutting deer, quartering them. What's your experience been mentoring some of those hunters to their first deer? Do they get in there and do it? Do they kind of stand back? What's that experience been for you?
A lot of times I do the field dressing myself, but I talk them through it. I show them step by step because you know somebody might not be there next time to do it for them, so got to make sure they know how to do it themselves.
Yeah.
Um, it's my actually a great story. My friend's son shot his first bear,
Oh, wow.
and they called me to help him drag it out and whatnot. So I went over and helped him drag you to a clearing. And field dressing a bear it's a strange experience because their anatomy is very much like a person. You have them splay down on the ground like a person, and you're, field
Yep.
dressing them. And I actually had him hands-on
Yep.
helping me do it.
Yeah.
So and he's an accomplished hunter now. He's shot, quite a few animals. So
That's awesome.
hopefully that was a learning experience for him.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, for those that are new to mentorship, so many of the things that we take for granted or just know like the back of our hand, once you're actually doing it and trying to explain it to someone, it can sometimes be hard to explain. We know all the actions and what to do, what not to do. To sit there and talk through it is intimidating sometimes. And what I've found valuable, like in somebody's first deer, right? It is a lot of pressure to sit there and walk them through how to gut a deer. I've found more value in because they might not even know how to hold the knife yet, right? I've
Yeah,
literally
that's
had to,
true.
like, my goal for this experience is I want you to understand how to hold the knife, the big major steps of what to do, but you're going to watch me do it for your own safety. And then in certain parts, I'm going to help you, maybe cut the diaphragm. That's a pretty low risk exercise. And that's just me helping teach them how to hold the knife. But that is so big for them to build that confidence they need to then do it themselves the next time.
Hey, I've sliced my finger trying to field dress a deer.
We all have,
It
unfortunately.
is what it is.
Yeah, that's when you teach them, carry a first aid kit. You'll need it when you'll need it when you need it. So
Yeah. Now, is there a conservation aspect to the mentorship that you're teaching these uh, youngsters?
there is. So we don't necessarily have like a direct curriculum per se that our mentors would work through, right? It's kind of subject to the hunt. Um, However, we do require anyone involved to be hunter safety certified. So that's what I do in my day to day. I own a business that teaches hunter safety online. I'm also a volunteer in-person instructor. So we try to set that foundational knowledge by saying, hey, before you attend a hunt with Pass It On Outdoor Mentors, you do need to take hunter safety. And the International Hunter Ed Association, they set the national standards for the content that is taught in any hunter education course, whether it's online, in person. So they get a lot of that conservation message there. And then what we try to do is really reiterate those points just in plain English, right? When we get there, is to say, hey, you're here, right? We're going deer hunting. You bought your license. You have this, you have that. We talked through Pittman Robertson funding, and so yeah, we definitely try to focus back in on that element of it because ultimately we do want to create stewards of conservation, but also future hunters that know how to represent hunting. Same for angling, right? There's an excise tax on some of the tackle and how all that works. So um, yep, we try to weave that message in for sure.
Absolutely. And that's a really important part of what we do. It's not just about the hunt. It's everything that comes along with it. It's,
Yeah.
sitting there before daylight, watching nature wake up. It's,
Yeah.
that's an exciting part of the day. All right. The squirrels are a pain in the ass, but they're part of it as well.
Well, on the next hunt, you can take them squirrel hunting, and then you won't see them.
You got to carry a pellet gun with you to get rid of the squirrels while you.
Right. That's right. It's interesting. I was looking prior to this. I was looking at some of our metrics through Pass It On Outdoor Mentors, and have you heard of the subject of R3 or just the concept of R3?
No, I have not.
So in the fish and wildlife, conservation community, and this really comes down to like the state DNR divisions, right, or law enforcement divisions that are responsible for selling the hunting licenses, so on and so forth. There is almost like a function now of marketing, which is R3, and marketing wouldn't be the right way to explain it, but I think that's and to an industry person, that is effectively R3 is marketing.
Okay.
So it's recruitment, retention, reactivation, right? When we look at the life cycle of hunters, right, we got to go get people, we got to keep them here, and if they drop off, we got to get them back. And what's really cool about mentorship is that the traditional model of recruitment is it's changing, right? You and I'm going to make some assumptions, maybe wrong. We probably came up through the more traditional onboarding of, hey, I grew up hunting because my dad hunted, because my grandpa,
Yeah.
right? So we had all that access. What we're learning through a lot of our data is that people don't have that access anymore, right? It's not as traditional. So whether you call it adult onset hunting or think it's been diagnosed as that, but there are certain groups of people that just say, hey, I'd like to start hunting because I want to be more organic and natural in my food acquisition,
Yeah.
right? They don't come from a hunting background. We're really focused as a community trying to make sure that no matter how you're getting into hunting, that you have access to mentors, right? So Pass It On Outdoor Mentors is just one of many organizations that focus on mentorship. And it's really to make sure that the non-traditional upbringing have access to, those critical success factors, right? Folks like you and I to teach them along the way. So whether it's NGO groups, right? Ducks Unlimited, Delta Waterfowl, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, name any number of groups. There's typically mentor programs where you can get involved and help people like that. But I was back to those metrics. 38% of our youth are hunting a new species for the first time. 66% of them are successful in harvesting that species. So what we're constantly looking at is we're not just here to bring people in for their first hunt. We're also making sure they have access ongoing, right? Because if we can get them consistently hunting for 3 to 5 years, we know that the retention is going to be way stronger on that person than if they just go hunting once and then never go again.
Mhm.
So anytime I talk to people about mentorship, I think it's really easy to be narrowly focused on, well, I'm just going to take somebody who's never been before. But, don't turn your nose at helping someone who maybe has hunted before, but is struggling with access, right?
Yeah.
Or struggling with instruction. Mentorship there's a positive return on your time, whether you're recruiting, retaining, or reactivating a hunter.
Well, I think we saw a spike in that during COVID. I think we saw a lot of people who were out of hunting for a while come back into it just to get the hell out of the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or get away from their wife or whatever, whatever it was. But yeah, I think we saw an increase at that time, and I'm sure some of it did fall off since then, but I think we did have some decent retention numbers.
Yeah, there's a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has gobs and gobs of data on that. There was certainly a spike in participation, and I think what we've seen since then is there's been some retention, but not as much as we would have liked, right? And it really continues to come down to time, access, money, right?
I
We are
think time is a big factor.
Yeah, we're competing for people's discretionary time, right? I mean, look, very few people are hunting for the necessity of food acquisition anymore. Um, it's a luxury that we have the ability to do that in our country. Um, you know, it is there. It's our right to do that. But we ultimately are kind of fighting for that discretionary time where I could just as easily go golfing, right? Or I could just as easily, I don't know, insert whatever your hobby is.
Yeah,
Uh, and as a lot of those channels were shut down during COVID, people explored that idea of like, I've always wanted to go hunting. I have time, and
yeah.
so and so's woods are available. So um, programs like ours are really focused on trying to retain that interest. But it's tough. We're up against a lot of competition.
Yeah, and it's like I'm 2, 3, 4 hours away from being able to go out into the woods and, do my thing. There's a lot of hunting on Long Island where I am. I just don't hunt Long Island, for the simple reason of the, of overabundance of line ticks.
Oh, interesting.
And we have some monster deer here.
Hmm.
Because there's no coyote. We're the
Yeah.
only predators. They get big, they get old. There's Boone and Crockett deer on Long Island. But it comes down to risk reward. That's something to teach also. You got to prepare when you go outdoors, spray yourself down.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Lyme disease is no joke. It's debilitating if it's not caught early, and it could lay you up for a while. Um, so
Yeah.
I'm pretty careful about that. I like to go upstate where it's not as prevalent. Yes, you can get it upstate, but there's a ton of deer ticks on Long Island.
See, and that's a really good example of right now we're guiding a lot of turkey hunts, right? It's turkey season.
Yep,
And that's a good example of the things that, I would argue even hunters probably don't pay enough attention to is actually protecting yourselves from ticks.
yep,
Um, but someone who's coming into this for the first time, they're not going to think about that. So that's where mentorship becomes so critical, right? And it does not have to be one-on-one mentorship where we sit down and talk about how to prevent ticks, right? I mean, mentorship can take form in so many different shapes and forms, right? It could be a Facebook video where, look, if you're an expert turkey hunter, but you know that there are a lot of ticks in your area, make a video about it, share it, right? I mean,
yeah.
who knows?
Spray your
Um,
clothes down with Sawyer's.
yeah,
It repels them. It's not an end all. It don't create a invisible force field around you, but at least it will limit your interaction with them.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's a
uh,
step. It's a step that you can take.
yeah, and it's like you said, it's always overlooked. It's something that if it goes untreated and you dismiss the early warning signs, the fatigue, the joint pain, I'm working too hard, I pulled something, you overlook that. But
Yeah,
once Lyme disease gets over that initial stage, you're in trouble.
yeah,
You have short-term memory loss, impaired vision, um, fainting spells. It gets bad. I know firsthand. I've seen it. Somebody close to me that was laid up for 3 years in bed, couldn't figure out what it was, and doctors don't. They'll run tests. It don't come up normally in a regular blood test. You have to send it out to special labs that will read it differently. And, it took a while. And
mm.
regular specialists don't take insurance. So,
Yeah, yeah. Go figure. That's a whole nother conversation. I mean, ticks are a good one. Just general first aid, right? That is one thing we do struggle with teaching hunter safety is there is so much that I can and should teach you, right, about hunting. But we have to balance that with how much time and attention are we actually going to get from this person.
not a lot.
So, I kind of look at hunter education as we may say hunter ed and hunter safety as like tissue and Kleenex, right? It's, but I think it's different, right? It's hunter education is what's everything you need to know about hunting, right? Hunter safety, right? When you get your certification, that's where we really focus in on just what does the data suggest we need to teach you, right? The fundamental rules of firearm safety, how to be safe in tree stands, right? Look at the data. Where are people? Hunting's very safe, very safe. We want to keep it that way. But when you look at the incidents that do take place, it's very clear, right, where we need to focus in. So if I'm only going to have 4 to 6 hours with you on a Saturday, I'm going to focus in on the things that make sure you come back alive. We don't
Sure.
get time to really dive into all that other stuff. So again, that's where mentorship becomes so critical is um, we could spend an hour on tick prevention, you know?
Well, I mean, let's face it, the fatalities that could potentially happen during hunting is very low. It's very remote. But in the event, I mean, I had a friend that fell out of a tree stand, broke his back.
Yeah.
It could happen.
Well, and tree stands, that's actually a different board I served on. I'm no longer part of that one, but I was one of the founding board members for the Tree Stand Safety Awareness Foundation. Tree stands, the biggest threat to deer hunters out there. I mean, yes, firearms are definitely there, but there's what we've discovered is there's quite a bit of discrepancies between what's reported and what actually happens. Um, I mean, to your point, falling from a tree stand, like we are not designed to fall from 12 plus feet in the air.
Yeah.
If that happens, it's a bad day. Even if you're wearing a safety harness, you've got issues around, it could lead to a cardiac arrest, right? If you don't get back into the stand. So walking through, one, stay connected from the time your feet leave the ground till they get back up again, right? If they're back down again. Right. But walking through even how to set it up once you're in the tree. So many people go through the steps of actually wearing a safety harness, but then they don't set it up right and they're still in trouble. So
Yeah.
it's unfortunate when that happens because it's so avoidable. But it's kind of like boating. Wear a life jacket, right? So many people just don't wear a life jacket.
Yeah. I had a boat. Didn't know anything about boats. I didn't even know what a channel marker was.
Yeah, figure it out real quick.
Yeah, Tom knew me by name.
Yep, I could imagine. So,
But I think your organization is important to the next generation of outdoorsmen and hunters and fishermen. Kids don't want to go outdoors. They want to stay inside, watch TV, play on a video game, or whatever it is. It's a generational thing, and we need to do what we have to do to get them outside.
yeah, it's and while I'm part of Pass It On Outdoor Mentors as an organization, right? Our focus right now is pretty limited to a handful of states. Kansas, Wisconsin, Iowa, but we're branching into some other states, Missouri, Texas, so on and so forth.
Mhm.
Um, I would say that just look to us as a model. Um, Anyone that I've met that's focused on mentorship, it is a rising tide lifts all boats mentality, right? So while I'd love to say, hey, come become a mentor for Pass It On Outdoor Mentors, um, more importantly than that, I would say just align with our mission and passion for mentorship, right? Look up some of your local conservation chapters, other non-governmental organizations out there, membership groups. Just kind of hitch your wagon to somebody who is already in a formalized fashion doing mentorship,
Yeah.
right? There's no better reward than giving your time and then seeing, the ROI on that. Just when you create hunters and anglers. It's
Is there a chapter system to pass it on?
in a sense, yeah, we have statewide coordinators that will lead state programs. So it's more of a state program configuration than it is like a local chapter that someone might be more
Okay.
accustomed to. We haven't gone that model yet just because we really want to stay quick and nimble.
Yeah.
We've historically, of course, we have fundraising efforts, right? Gun raffles. We have a big Bust a Clay event coming up where it's a big clay shoot. It's a fundraising, but we've over the years just wanted to stay more focused on our mission of getting kids outdoors and
Sure.
less about organizing events, right? And stuff like that. Cause you can very quickly get caught up in the operational distractions of, you know, local chapters and all that. It's like, let's just get kids hunting.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So, what's next for you? How can somebody get involved?
Yeah, well, I personally am always available. Any of your viewers that would like to reach out to me and just learn more about how they could give back in their community, I'd love to be a connector. So you can certainly visit our website. It's Pass It On Outdoor Mentors, and you can look and see what we do there just to get some ideas. Reach out to me, our CEO, anyone from our board. But I would say a next step is just my challenges to anybody watching this is like NSSF has a really cool program. It's called Take One, Make One. Right? Just
Yep.
take somebody hunting, take somebody fishing, create the next generation of outdoor participants. It is not a tall ask to take one person out this year.
No, it's not.
And then I think what you'll find is it's so rewarding that next year is going to be 5, next year is going to be 10. And before you know it, you'll prioritize your time around getting other people out there than, doing it for yourself.
I agree. Once you get somebody outdoors, they're hooked. You get them in the woods, they see their first animal, they're pretty much gonna keep on doing it.
Yeah. Our website, and I'll make sure you get this so you can post it, is outdoormentors.org. So you can go there and just look, how you can participate, how you can donate. Even for someone who may be watching this from New York, our efforts are mainly, in the Midwest, but we love support from afar. I mean, if you don't have the time to take someone out this year, but you have the, financial means, we put any and all dollars to work. So my commitment would be your dollars will equate to boots on the ground, kids hunting.
Great. All right. Well, we're running out of time. I definitely appreciate you taking the time to speak to us today. And go to the website, outdoormentors.org. And if you haven't subscribed to the American Outdoor News Podcast, hit that button now. We're on all platforms, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, we're on them all. So thanks again, and we will see you again next week.
Yep. Appreciate the opportunity and stay safe out there, everybody.